my first memory was really doing the stand at Christie's. But here, this space here, I mean, I'm so fond. I was really, really pleased when you asked me to do this because I only smile when I think of Oot on Tuesday. First of all, a clever name, really simple Scottish word, Oot. I mean, Oot was a good thing to remember, but it was also it was gay, so you were out, and it was out on Tuesday. So simple but clever, and it's really interesting. Um, I think a lot of my friends or gays that I spoke to had never really seen themselves reflected on stage in stand up and didn't really go to stand up. They were funny and they liked comedy TV and Victoria Wood and Finch and Saunders, but they didn't go to stand up. And Oot was kind of catering for that crowd, something camp, tongue in cheek, and the performer didn't have to be gay. They just had to have a kind of gay sensibility that the audience would enjoy. And we discovered, I mean, I discovered so many brilliant people because of it. Nice. I mean, that's a very funny character. Amazing ability to do something to a room that makes them all feel like they've been collectively invited to this show that was just for them. I mean, that's when comedy's at its best. When an audience leave going, well, you should have been there on that Tuesday. We were howling. We had a really high standard of people. Scott Capurro, I mean, Scott just says everything that's in his head. And again, me and Scott did gigs together recently, and it was really nice because he remembers really fondly performing here. And Scott was outrageous. I think the big discovery for Edinburgh and Glasgow was Tina C. I think we'd seen drag that could sing as well as that, and it was a brilliant character with the best legs in the business, but wrote all those songs herself as well. So it was that I think was stuck in people's heads because you got great reactions to that. So my main memory of it being euphoric and fun is when they discovered things they hadn't seen before that were extremely good and extremely funny. I always thought I'd imagined this, but I was thinking, I'm sure we had Alan Carr before he was on TV and he was well known. And then I think we've looked it up and we did. And I remember thinking he was brilliant and he was funny and, he'll do well at that point. My main memory was the thing that I did with Joe, which was the two of us, and we were hosting it once a month. We would always open with a song. I mean, we would get costumes. I remember I was doing, I think she just had a big white sheet and she was going, la, 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 la. She was doing, Can't Get It Out of My Head. And I remember doing Islands in the Stream. But Jill just reminded me recently, we did Blind Date. And we always pronounced that da in the middle. And that was a riot. Because even, if you hadn't gone for everything on stage, you'd still have a fun night out because there's an element of it that's camp and silly. And there wasn't really, nobody, I just don't think, have they done that to this day? Anyone, the Gay Blind Date? I don't know, but that's what it was. And it was great fun. You'd find single people in the audience. And I don't know if we put something between them. They must have seen each other in advance, but we had questions to ask them. They had to answer and decide whether they wanted to go date. And sometimes they did. And I'm not joking. They came back and told us about their date. Was the full cinema. And I think it was great. I think a lot of gays who hadn't been to a lot of stand-up comedy left with a broader knowledge. What was great was they started coming to the stand generally because they discovered the stand. So it was a great introduction for people of a brilliant local stand-up comedy club, which, by the way, after all these years, has the same brilliant local stand-up reputation all these years later. It didn't die, and it's still as strong. I mean, that for me, that's its most remarkable thing in Edinburgh and Glasgow. And you could specifically make your comedy about that subject. And I don't know whether I have seen much comedy written about that subject, about gay life.
Yeah.
And so from your point of view, you can indulge that side of yourself with an audience who would particularly get to what you're talking about. And I think that was part of its appeal, was for me performing it and for Jill and for the other performers and for the audience. They were like, stand up about the gays and the lesbians and the world we live in.